All right, everybody, what's going on? Today we're here to talk about the new Modern Warfare 3, and I'm gonna be honest here, most of what I have to say is negative. I get this is all probably gonna be a bit of a hot take, but to be honest, I think most of it needs to be said. And at the end of the day, if you don't agree with what I have to say, it's your money after all, and you're free to spend it however you want, but, this game is kind of a ripoff in my opinion, and I can't believe there isn't as much outrage in the community. But I'm not surprised given that the player base will gobble up whatever Call of Duty game has been put in front of them for, almost the past 20 years. To start this story, we're going to go back to the gaming news from 2022 reporting that there would not be a new Call of Duty game released in 2023. Which, in my opinion, was fine. Warzone 2 and MW2 are, still pretty fresh on the scene to this day after their release in November of last year. It was reported that this game, which, I'm using as a pretty loose term here, was supposed to initially be a large DLC, but then, reported to be a full premium standard release, according to this article from February 9th of 2023, about 3 months after MW2 went live. So for a history lesson here, let's rewind the clock back to the early years of Call of Duty once the original Modern Warfare came out in 2007, so 16 years ago. Typically, you would purchase the game and then a year later another game would come out. Now, this game would not be from the same series, so for instance, in this example, the next game to come out was World at War in 2008, and then a sequel to Modern Warfare came out in 2009, the fabled MW2. So if you weren't interested in, World War II games, you would get 2 years of life out of the original Modern Warfare before it became obsolete. And you could track this pattern between, the Black Ops games, Modern Warfare games, World War II games, even the Advanced Warfare and all those other crazy games that they had released throughout the history of Call of Duty. Never have we had a back-to-back, same title and series release until this year. And this is the first point I want to touch on here. The game costs $70, for the bare minimum purchase price. Up to $100 if you want the, the premium edition. I don't even know what they're called, the Vault edition or whatever. And if you have to spend that twice, 365 days apart to keep up with the Modern Warfare games, if you're somebody that back in the day would have played only Modern Warfare games, then you effectively purchased a single game with a 2-year life cycle for $140 to $200, depending on what edition of the game you get. Which, in my opinion, is a colossal amount of money. There are live subscription games that do not cost anywhere near that and are packed with more content than a Call of Duty game ever could be. And, I understand that maybe some of you are saying right now, well, I would spend the money either way if it was a different game. If it was a Cold War or a Black Ops game that was coming out or, Advanced Warfare or whatever. You would spend the money either way. The fact that it's 2 Modern Warfare games in a row doesn't really bother me. So next I'd like to talk about what you're getting for this extra $70. The current known launch maps for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 are all maps that were first originally seen in 2009 on Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, the original game for which this current game is named after. Right now, there are 12 known maps that were pretty much copy and pasted from a previous game with updated graphics, textures, and physics to be implemented. And to illustrate my point, let's talk about DLCs from years ago. When the original Modern Warfare, MW2, World at War, and Black Ops games were all being played, they would offer DLCs to supplement the game, typically at a price of $10 to $15 per DLC. And what you got for your money was 4 or 5 new multiplayer maps, or throwback maps, I will admit, from previous games. And for Treyarch games, they would typically, throw in an extra zombies map. So using this formula for 12 multiplayer maps, we should be paying $30 to $45, which I think should be closer to the lower end of that range at $30, being that these maps are, necroed from an already existing game. In my opinion, the only redeeming quality for this Call of Duty is the new Zombies mode, which will reportedly take place on the new full-size Battle Royale map and has been described by some as a, DMZ meets Zombies kind of experience. But even that seems ripped off from other games that are Zombies-based looter shooters like DayZ, Miscreated, and of course, who could forget the blatant ripoff that DMZ is on Escape from Tarkov. The new map will not be playable on Warzone 2.0 until the Season 1 update for MWII, which is scheduled for December 6th right now. And now let's talk about the campaign. Reports on MWIII's campaign are touting that this campaign is more of a sandbox experience. Quote-unquote sandbox experience. And some of you might be asking, what does that mean? They claim that the campaign will adapt to the playstyle of the player. In a quote by David Swenson, who is the creative director for the new Call of Duty, he says, "Now we're really leaning into our ability to have the engine adapt to the playstyle of the player. If you're going to be totally quiet or go in guns blazing, the campaign will totally adapt and support however you want to play it." But at the end of the day, do the missions and the endgame remain the same regardless of the choices? Call of Duty campaigns are akin to a year-after-year run-through of a blockbuster action movie. And over the last 16 years, let's be honest, have been as unimaginable as it comes with, linear and predetermined storytelling. Now, this is the boldest step they've taken to date, but in my mind, anyone who played the original MWIII will already know the outcomes and major plot points of this game. The major characters are still the same, following Soap, Ghost, Captain Price, Makarov as the villain. Sure, there are some curveballs thrown in that weren't part of the original games, but in my mind, this just promotes the lazy, multiverse kind of thing that every superhero movie does nowadays, which conveniently brings characters back from the dead, introduces new characters where there were none before, and in general leads the story to the same ends, just through new and emerging means. Most of the numbers I can find on campaign participation are as low as 20 to 30% of the player base completing the campaign in any difficulty, with only 50% of the people who start the campaign actually finishing it. Even if this game is an absolute blockbuster of a campaign, and I mean, the best from the franchise in over a decade, the player base has shifted to want a much more multiplayer cooperative experience. Does this make up for the other half of the game's asking price? I truly doubt it. The majority of players sit in the 21 to 35-year-old age group for, these Call of Duty games, which puts all of them at an age where they would have potentially already played through these campaigns on the original. And movies where you already know the ending going into the theater typically rank lower than original versions of the same movies. Let's look at how hard the prequel trilogy of Star Wars faced criticism. The only way that this game or that prequel lives up to the hype is if new players or new viewers to the series who weren't alive during the Golden Age begin their journey at the very beginning, at the beginning of the prequels or at the beginning of this new set of campaigns, and continue their way through this MWIII release, which would be players likely below the age of 24 years old. My final thought on the campaign, sure, you may have reimagined it, and it could be graphically beautiful with, all kinds of new features, but the story itself is redundant and repetitive to the people who have already been playing these games for years. And as the numbers show, it's already unimpressive to the majority of the player base. Now, as far as gameplay improvements goes, they have explicitly stated that they plan on bringing back a bunch of features that should have been in this current iteration of the franchise, such as, the ability to vote to skip maps, reintroduction of the dead silencer, ninja perk, slide canceling, and even they've even come out and said that operator skins will carry over to the new game from MW2. But let me ask you this. Why were some of these features not included in the original MW2 release? Is this a money-hungry grab to hold this stuff over your head to corner you into purchasing another $70 to $100 game in a year's time? To be honest, the answer to me is yes. I think it's blatant greed. They saw the dollar signs when they were thinking about slapping together an update to a very lackluster multiplayer experience, for MW2, and said, you know what, I bet we could redo the MW3 campaign and charge a full $70 for this release 1 year after MW2 came out. The other issue is that the majority of the weapons for the new Call of Duty are being directly imported from MW2 because, surprise, surprise, they're from the exact same series. Save for, the addition of a few new guns, MW3 is proven time and time again to be a shameless copy and paste money grab, because even the features they're bringing back are features that made, the gaming franchise popular in the first place. And finally, let's just talk about the billions of dollars they make off of putting out recycled garbage like this year after year. MW2 is reported to have made $1 billion 10 days after the release. The original Warzone made $4 billion through store transactions and game purchases between 2020 and 2021, with almost $6 billion in 2022. And with them charging $10 or more for a skin and a couple weapon blueprints, and a shabby copy and paste game, I'm sure they're raking in even more this year with the addition of a black cell version of the Battle Pass that costs $30 as opposed to the usual $10. Does this black cell version of the Battle Pass provide any extra content? Not really, just a few weapon blueprints and exclusive operator skins, some of which are copied directly from other games. We're not talking about a map pack or campaign extensions or new modes. We're talking about a premium version of an already premium battle pass. There are only two ways I could honestly justify the purchase of this game. First of all, if you're a huge fan of the zombies modes from years gone by, I can see how the new zombies mode would be appealing to players who really enjoy that kind of content. And the other way would be if you're a younger player who never got to experience the original Call of Duty campaigns and want to play through, these three games, or people who never played through the original storyline years ago. But the plain and simple story in my mind is anyone who is a multiplayer or Warzone player should save their money and wait for another release, because charging another $70 is absolutely egregious for a game where all elements and concepts in it are copy and pasted from other games that were popular years or even decades ago. Now, that's all for me, guys. Remember, if you liked the video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up and hit subscribe, and also share the video and comment down below, because I honestly want to hear other perspectives from you guys. We'll see you next time.